All right. Introducing
And
Brian, our presenter today. Brian, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and then start the presentation, please.
fantastic. And Mike, while I'm doing that, if you wouldn't mind giving me ability to do a screen share, it would be great. And I'll get the presentation pulled up. Welcome everyone. Thanks for signing in today and connecting. Just a quick little background on myself and our company. Brian Epperson. I have been in advertising, marketing, creative solutions for this is my 30th year. And I've had the privilege to work with brands from household names like Tiffany and Company and Toyota and Lexus and American Express and Bank of America and brands like that to brands that you have never heard of unless you live in their particular community that they serve. And it's been a real privilege to work with all different types of organizations. And over the 30 years, a lot of times people will ask me, well, gosh, there's a whole lot that's changed in your industry. And while that is true in some sense, a lot hasn't changed when it comes to putting the right marketing plan and strategy together. The ways we can communicate nowadays are far different than maybe even five, let alone 10, 20, or 30 years ago. But the principles that make an effective marketing campaign are still consistent and true. And so that's what we're going to talk about today as we dive into things. And the topic or the theme of this was how to. I got muted there. Can everybody hear me okay now? I think we're good. All right. Um, so what we're going to dive into is how we go about ensuring that we are not doing those random acts of marketing, which have the ability to really impact the performance and the results when we are doing a campaign and trying to reach the right different audiences that we want to convey a message to. So as we're talking today, feel free to drop a question in the chat space. We can unmute you as well. This is meant and intended to be a nice dialogue rather than just me talking to you for the next 30, 40, 50 minutes. So please feel free to dive in and share your comments and questions and everything, and we'll definitely go through those. Um, this first statement here, how to avoid doing random acts of marketing. Sometimes people go, well, what does that even mean? Right? Here's what I propose as a definition of a random act of marketing. A random act of marketing is when you're promoting your business or your organization, but you're not sure if it's reaching the right people or if it's reaching them with the right message, or you're not measuring it, so you don't know if it actually was effective or not. There's an old saying that goes back about 50, 60 years ago that said 50% of marketing is effective. The challenge is knowing which 50% works. And that's kind of been true for a lot of times, but you can avoid that randomness of wondering, did what I'm doing work or not? The 50-50 odds through some key simple strategies that can help any organization. At Target River, which has been around now, we're in our 10th year. This is my second marketing agency. We've built our strategy around four key principles that we're going to talk to you about today and teach you today. And that if you construct and create future marketing initiatives and plans utilizing these four steps as your foundation, your likelihood of success would put you in the Hall of Fame if you were playing a sport, meaning your chances are very good that you're going to avoid doing the random acts and actually do measurable and meaningful acts of marketing, have tangible results. So that's what we're going to be diving in today. The first thing that we always talk about is the journey that people go through with your organization. And this holds true whether you are a nonprofit, a for profit business, a service provider, an e commerce platform, a candidate running for political office, a government agency trying to reach their constituents or community members. These principles are universally applicable, and we apply them to any organization that we work with in any size and in any state in the United States. So we've tested this in very rural, very urban, large, small industry. It doesn't matter. Some of this, hopefully, as we talk today, you're going to go, well, that's common sense and that makes sense. And I'll give you a little secret. Effective marketing has a lot of common sense built into it. Unfortunately, many people don't use common sense when it comes to their marketing plans, and that's why they misfire. So the first step for anybody in a journey with their potential customers is creating awareness. And this is that first, of course, common sense moment. If people don't know about you or of you, what can they possibly consider learning more about you to engage your organization? If I'm a business owner and I'm in the greater Poway area and I don't know that the Poway Chamber even exists, how can I even have the desire to learn about the programs and the offerings and the benefits and the events and everything um, to want to consider joining? So the first thing that you have to mindfully consider is what efforts are you taking to generate awareness with people that you would love to engage or do business with. So that way you can be, as I often say, put on the shopping list. The second step, once people are aware of your business or your organization, is you want to create that interest, that curiosity into the features, the benefits, the services, the different things that you offer to those that you're trying to get a message to. And this might be to help them solve a problem, improve their lives, provide value, curiosity and excitement about what you do. But it's that next level of, hey, I know who this organization is. And sorry, Mike, I'm going to use the chamber as the example here. Um, I know they exist. Now I've had interest in what they actually do to help organizations in the greater community. And so that's where that curiosity starts to grow. Once we have an individual at that level, we want to create that desire in them to want to learn more. So in the case of the chamber, that might be, okay, I know who the chamber is. Oh, I know some basic things of what they offer. Now let me dive into the details of what it looks like to have a membership and what value that membership has to me. Oh, I can attend educational events such as this. I can network with other people at after hours events or at a golf tournament and other things. And really get to enough information so that they have a good understanding of what it is that you do, what you offer, and what value you might provide to them as a customer or a potential customer for your business or organization. That ultimately leads you to the fourth key point, which is action, right? If someone doesn't know who you are and what you do and what you offer, how can they possibly, in their mind, get to a point that they want to choose to do business with or not, to hire you for your whatever it is, to make a purchase, to hire you as a contractor, a consultant, whatever your outcome or goal is with them, if they don't have the knowledge of who you are, what you do, and why you will benefit them, they can't take the action that you want. And so that's why when we're looking at a marketing plan, we want to ensure that we're mindfully considering all of these steps. If you're an established business, there are people that are along each of these steps already. There's some people in the community that have never heard of you. So you've got a certain percentage that are in that awareness category. There's some people, because maybe you've been around 6, 7, 8, 10 years or longer, they know of you, but they're at that level of interest. And maybe that interest isn't going to come up until they have need for what you do or offer. So in the case of a marketing company, people might be aware of Target River, but until they have that moment or need for marketing, they might not know really what we do. And so then all of a sudden they're in a position to need support. So that's where that interest is going to be starting to generate. Then there's going to be that level of individuals that maybe are aware of what you do and what you offer, And then they're now at the moment where they need it. If I'm an HVAC company, there might be a lot of people that are aware of me, but they're not going to call in to me until my AC unit is having an issue. It needs a tune-up. It is not blowing cold, whatever it is. So that's when I have a desire to see which HVAC company in the community can help me so I can take action and make a call to them. Is that making sense for everybody? Any questions? If not, we're going to dive into the strategy that helps you accomplish this. Okay. And it's really four basic steps here. And we call it our who, how, what, and where. Um, when we are working with clients, there's a decision that the client has to make on whether Target River is the right organization to work with. And there's also a decision we as Target River have to make whether this potential client would be a good client partner for us. And the biggest litmus for us is not what industry in, and actually not even what their budget is, but is can we and can this potential client be disciplined to follow this four-step process? Because if we follow this four steps, we're going to have success. If we get any of these out of order, or we skip a step, or we don't do all of the steps, we're setting the campaign or the marketing efforts up for failure. And it starts with this. And this again goes back. This is our second common sense moment, right? As you think about your business and your organization, what you do and what you offer, in most cases, not every single person alive on planet Earth at this time is a candidate for what you do, right? Um, there's very few things out there that are that case. Maybe the universal things like everybody buys groceries and that, but for most organizations and businesses, there's certain people that are more likely to need or to want to do business with you. So that's why we always start with who, which is properly identifying who are the different groups of people that you should be telling your message or story to. Take them along that journey of creating that awareness to generate an interest to learn more so they have a desire to take action. So as we think about who that might be, there's three basic ways that you can target people based on who they are. The first is geography, okay? So as you think about your business, first thing that you have to have an honest evaluation and assessment with yourself is realistically, how far are people willing to travel to come and do business with me? Or if you're a service provider that goes to customers, how far am I willing to realistically travel to go to them, to bring my service or product to them? Um, if you're an e-commerce company, obviously that's a little different. Then it's which states or countries am I willing to ship and can ship products to? And that's going to factor into your geography. The reason I say that we need to be realistic and honest with ourselves is if I have a coffee shop and I'm on Poway Road and I can have the best roast around and the greatest flavors and the most incredible friendly baristas, but truth be told, there's a lot of amazing, great shopping or coffee shops in San Diego County, let alone North Central San Diego County, let alone along the 15 corridor. And so we have to honestly say, how far can I realistically get somebody to drive to go past one or two or three or five or 20 other coffee shops to come to mind or to my coffee shop? So that's part of why the geography is important to understand and realize that we've got a lot of competition and we maybe are the best out of everybody else out there. How many of your competitors are somebody willing to drive by to get to you? Or if you're a service provider, maybe you can take care of and help somebody that lives down in San Ysidro. But realistically, is that best and what's right for your business? In some cases, it might be because of the price point or the position you are in your company where you're just trying to acquire new clients because you're in a growth mode. But in other cases, you might say, hey, for the price point and the service that I offer and the length of time that I'm with somebody, the amount of time I'm going to spend driving down to San Ysidro and back, I don't charge enough to make that worth my time. So we have to factor that geography. The second thing that we need to factor when it comes to who do we want to market to is what's called demographics. So these are the basic things that people, the basic 411 about you as a person. Okay. So this demographics, and I'll use myself as an example, is I'm 53 years old. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I own an advertising agency, and this is my job title, CEO. So those are kind of the basic things about me. There's a couple of extra layers that you can add, such as language. So maybe primary and secondary languages that people speak in the home. But it's the basic things about that. So to start framing our who, um, I'll use a client example of ours in San Diego County, which is Biggs Harley Davidson up in San Marcos. Okay. So the first thing for them is they have to factor and say, okay, how far and how realistically are people willing to drive to San Marcos to buy a new or used motorcycle, or get their current motorcycle serviced? So there's a certain distance that they know people are willing to drive to come to their property along the 78 corridor. The second thing they realized is 92% of the people who purchase a motorcycle from their dealership are men. Okay. And majority of the women that buy a motorcycle are buying it to ride in companionship with a male. So they say, great, we want to start to target people that live in this certain region of San Diego County because there's the highest likelihood that they'll come to our dealership. And of all the people that live in that geographic region, we want to focus on men. And of men, we don't want to focus on 3-year-olds, obviously, or maybe 92-year-olds. There's a sweet spot in age that we want to target as well. So, as an example, that might be we want to reach men that are 35 to 65 years old in age. So now we're narrowing down that audience, getting it closer to a bullseye if you think about a dartboard in that sweet spot of 50 points with the red dot. Okay. Now, the third layer you can add to your targeting is we've talked about the geography. So North San Diego County, let's say. We've talked about the demographics. So maybe men who are 35 to 65 years old. But now, does every male that's 35 to 65 years old want to drive a motorcycle? No. So what we want to be able to layer in is the interest and intent and desire that people have for certain products. In the case of this motorcycle dealership, it's obviously those that would have interest in purchasing a motorcycle, new or used, or maybe currently have one, and we'd like to encourage them to come service that motorcycle at the business or to upgrade and purchase a new one when they're ready. So that's powerful targeted marketing data that we want to try to reach. Okay. Those individuals that are really in the sweet spot. There is a tremendous amount of data available on darn near everybody on planet Earth. Okay. There are literally dozens, if not hundreds of data points available on all of us to really start to hone in to be able to let us know who those right types of individuals are. For instance, if we have a product that's more expensive, maybe a more luxury item, we can narrow down and start to say, hey, certain people they just simply can't afford our product, nor should they be going out to get a loan to buy it. So we want to narrow down to maybe certain household income levels. Okay. So that's an example of narrowing it down. We want to narrow it down to people that are in this moment looking for, going back to the example of an HVAC company, for repairs for their AC unit right now. So we want to target people that might be searching for a particular word or phrase at that moment that live in the geographic area that we serve. So as you go about your day, walking around your phone, watching content on your television or your laptop or desktop, talking to people, searching things. So if you're doing a search on Google or Yahoo or one of the search platforms, watching videos on social media, liking different posts, sharing different posts, all of these different actions are being tracked. So the different advertising platforms are learning lots of valuable data about each of us so that we can, if we choose to, we can use the power of more targeted marketing to be able to reach who exactly we want. An ideal campaign reaches specific people and ignores everybody else. In fact, the best thing I could hear from a client is, and I'll use the example, there was a client here in San Diego County that had several automotive dealerships. Okay. And he called me very frustrated one day and was sounding like a sailor. And just frustrated because he said, Brian, I keep seeing the advertising for these RV events that you're promoting for your RV clients. And he said, but I'm not seeing any of the ads for our automotive event that's coming up. And I asked this client how old he was. And he said, and he was very fired up. So he said, well, what does that matter? My age. And I said, just tell me your age. And he told me his age. And at the time, he was 61 years old. So I asked him, I said, how old is the average RV buyer? He's like, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s. Okay. How old is the average used car buyer in San Diego? I don't know, 20s and 30s. Okay. So would it not make sense if I'm doing my job correctly that you're seeing the RV ads, but not the ads for the used car event? And the light bulb went on to him to realize, oh, and I even joked with him and said, you actually should have been calling me to thank me that our targeting was correct because we aren't wasting money reaching people that aren't interested in the event or the product and stuff. That's when you know you're doing your marketing and you're targeting correctly. Gonna pause for a second here. Any questions at this moment? Not seeing any. Okay.
A question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, this is David Koch. I'm
Hey,
just
David.
curious, like, do you integrate some form of CRM? Because in terms of, when you're doing your marketing and there's so many things to do, as I say, a small business, entrepreneurial business, so you're, keeping tabs accurately with those who are maybe opening the email or not responding and not, just having that right tempo, so you're not flooding the wrong person, but also reaching out to the person who might be periodic. That's one question. And the next one is like just from because you're a marketer, from history, when you're doing, I hate to use the word cold calls, but when you're following up, use the word sales. What's your contact? Like, like to make the sale. I hate to say it. It's like 5 to 7, 3 to 5 contact, because usually it's never 1 to 3. Put it that way, right? You have to go like that, 5 to 6 to 7, depending where they are in the funnel. I have no CRM, but I'm just really thinking about it because as we have multiple platforms, how do we, be as efficient with our time as possible, and how can we use automation just to help us, generate more potential clients and such.
Right, thank you. And David, what type of business do you have?
A behavioral health,
Behavioral
home-based
health.
and
Great.
community-based. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So, number one, yes, a customer relationship management tool, CRM, can be effective and valuable, especially if lead generation and nurturing those leads, understanding that maybe initially someone's just kind of poking around. They're not sure if what you offer is right or not. There's lots of options, maybe in your industry. So it is valuable to help ensure that you are tracking those leads and not missing out on opportunities. Um, because the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of time, effort, energy, and dollars to generate opportunities to do business or engage people, and then miss out because you simply forgot or got busy, especially as small business owners. We're doing 100 different things juggling. So having a basic tool that helps manage that customer journey that we talked about to ensure that we're following up appropriately. The price point, a lot of people have heard of the Salesforce, okay, which is one of the biggest customer relation management tools out there. That's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, and takes engineers to help implement and stuff. especially for smaller organizations, the SMBs, which most of us in America are, right? Most of us fall into that category of small business. There's a lot of much lower CRM tools that are out there to utilize that can be beneficial. Okay. When it comes to touch points, I'll share two things. First of all, there's the amount of times you reach somebody in order to get them to do what you're hoping they do, to raise their hand for that first time. Okay. Back in the day, when I first started in this crazy world of marketing, there were very few options to advertise or promote a business. Okay. Television, radio, direct mail, newspaper were the most common ways. Okay. Magazine ads a bit too, but those four main ways. So to get somebody's brain to a level where they can decide, do I want to call this business or engage them or not, usually took about 3 to 4 touches with your advertising. Okay. And then their brain had enough information to decide, yes, I want to consider this, or no, I do not, and I'm moving on to something else. Because there are so many more options to reach people. All of us on this call are literally bombarded every day with countless ads. Our brains are becoming so immune to many times we don't even realize we're getting an ad served to us because we're getting hit hundreds of times throughout the course of the day. Okay. So part of it's putting together the right plan and reaching the right people with the right message. But part of it is a term called frequency, which is the number of times someone sees your message. Old school days, 3 to 4 times got the job done. Now we project and estimate that we need to touch a single person between 8 to 10 times with a client's message in order to get that individual to decide in their brain, do I want to engage this business or not? Okay. So that's just from the outbound messaging standpoint. Okay. Once you've engaged them, let's say I'm a prospect for you, David, and I emailed you, and now you've got my name and contact information, and I've said I'm interested in learning more. Okay. Now you've got the next step of how many touches do you have to try to get me as a customer now that you've got my information, right? And that sales marketing cycle is going to be different for every organization. I will share for us as a company. Um, Over the last 5 weeks, we've had staff at conferences that relate to a lot of the industries we sell in. We were in Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, New York, right here in San Diego at different conferences, and we've generated dozens and dozens of leads, people that said they were interested in learning more about how Target River can help them. Okay. For me, I'm kind of a let's do business or not decision type of maker. Can we help you solve the problems that you're facing as an organization? And let's have a quick discussion. And if what we propose makes sense to solve your problem, great. If not, no harm, no foul. Let's move on. Right. So for us, we kind of have a sales approach of we're going to try 2 emails and 2 phone calls to get that person to schedule a time to hear how we're going to solve their problem. And if they don't respond to that, we have a unique custom email that we send to them as our fifth and final touch point. Okay. Um, and if they don't engage from that point, we realize shame on us. We probably didn't convey to them effectively enough how our marketing approach is the best in the industry and can help them solve their problem. Whether that's getting a customer, selling a product, getting a donation, getting elected as an official, whatever it might be. We didn't do an effective enough job presenting it initially. So shame on us. We need to move on. But we use a 5-touch follow-up with our leads. Okay. All right. Great questions. We've talked quite a bit about the who. Now we're going into the how. How do we get a message? And as I just alluded to, there are countless ways to get a message out there to people. And this is the important part when you're choosing how you're going to get a message to somebody through a form of advertising. It goes back to, and this is why you need to think about who you're going to reach, which advertising tools allow you to target that specifically. Okay. So let's use a quick example. We'll use our friends at Biggs Harley Davidson again as the example. Okay. And this goes back to the common sense. So this is our third time talking about common sense. If I bought a billboard for Biggs Harley Davidson on Interstate 5 going through Sorrento Valley, can I dictate who sees that billboard and who doesn't see that billboard? I cannot. That person could be a 16-year-old driver or a 98-year-old driver that's still cruising along in their vehicle. Okay. I cannot dictate how old or young they are, what interests they have, what age range they are, what gender they are, or any other thing. So for a lot of clients, a billboard might not make sense because I'm reaching a more narrow audience. Okay. In the case of Biggs Harley Davidson, it wouldn't make sense because the vast majority of people driving by that billboard don't fit the criteria that they're looking for, which is people that live in a portion of San Diego County that are men 35 to 65 years old and have interest in buying a motorcycle, which is only roughly 3% of the population. Okay. So that's an example where you'd look and say, okay, probably doesn't make sense. Sometimes people get excited and enamored with certain forms of advertising because they see a competitor of theirs that's doing that form of advertising. And that competitor maybe in your eyes could actually be considered successful. So what do? We often then say, well, if they're doing it and they're successful, it must be working for them. It could be, back to the title of this presentation, completely random act of marketing that's purely coincidental on why they're having success. They're having success despite the fact that they've chosen to market themselves in an inaccurate way. So the challenge for you as you're thinking about how to tell your story to your audience is use this as a rule. I'm only going to pick things that allow me to target the people I want to target. And I'm going to stay disciplined enough to not choose things that don't allow me to target. Okay. And I say that, and you can do that because there's so many ways you can target nowadays. Another local example is we have a software company that provides a project management solution for cities. That's who their clients are: cities, municipalities, county offices, okay, to manage all their different dozens and hundreds of construction projects that are going on at any given time in their municipality. So we run a campaign where the geography is the entire United States. So pretty broad, all 50 states, okay? But it gets very narrow because we only want to reach people that work at these municipalities, and even more narrow, only have one of 4 job titles because they're the only people that can make a decision to buy this product, okay? So when we go to pick how we're going to market to these city managers and directors of public works in these cities across America, there's only certain forms of advertising that allow us to target by employer and job title. Because if we miss the mark, we're wasting their money and they're not going to get the results. So that's why how you market is chosen second after you identify who you're going to market to. Okay. That's how we go through and choose the tactics that we recommend to our clients. Here's a word of caution. Most marketing companies lead with a bias. And what I mean by that is many people, if I grew up in the industry and I cut my teeth on doing search advertising, my human nature is to recommend to clients that form of advertising all the time, even if it's not the most cost efficient and effective way to reach their audience. If I grew up with traditional things and I sold lots of radio and TV advertising, my human nature and inclination is to recommend that to my clients. It took a couple of years for us to build Target River before we launched. And the biggest reason was I never wanted to offer recommendations to clients that are biased, meaning based on our own opinion. So as we like to say, we're like Switzerland. When we're putting together a plan, we're open to any form of marketing to consider. We only want to choose the ones that allow you to get your message to your audience and ignore everybody else. So if it's a print magazine that's going to be cost efficient and effective to promote my dry cleaners that are in a certain neighborhood, fantastic. If it's people standing on street corners spinning signs, and that's going to be mostly cost efficient for my client, we want to use that. It's all about which is the right one to get to your audience. Okay. I know I'm hammering that a bit home bit here, but that's the single biggest place I see people waste money all day long, every single day, is choosing the wrong tactics. Okay, now we're on to the oftentimes the thing that people think is the most fun, which is the what. What messaging am I going to share with my target audience? What's my video commercial going to look like? What's my Facebook ad going to look like? What's the content of my email and the design? The reason this is third and not first, which oftentimes people put it because it's the most exciting part. How do you know what to say to somebody unless you know who it is you're going to say it to? Okay. So you might not just your company might have 3 or 4 or 5 different types of customers that you're trying to sell to, just like Target River does. We've got lots of different audiences that we're trying to target. So when we're selling our solutions to public school districts, common sense would say, well, we shouldn't use the message that we're selling to trying to sell to nonprofits, right? Again, our fourth common sense point here, common sense would say personalize and tailor your message to the audience that you're trying to move along your journey. Okay. The second reason it's after the how is because we need to make sure we're not being wasteful and we're only designing the right type of messaging for the tactics that we're going to use. If you're not using video marketing, well, duh, you don't need to make a video. And I say that, but just a lot of times we sadly see clients get sold things like a video production company comes in and says, hey, for $3,500, we're going to come and spend the whole day and film your business. And we're going to create a 2-minute video that you can share on your website and social media. And the owner gets all excited and they buy that $3,500 or $5,500 video, or whatever it is. And my question always is, okay, how are people going to see it? And is that the right way to tell your story to people? So that's why we start the building of the different messaging after we know the who and the how. Okay. The fourth part that you see on here is where. This is the measuring. Okay. Most forms of marketing nowadays can be measured to some extent, if not extensively. And when I talk about that, that means you can measure things like how many people have seen your message. How many times have they seen it? That frequency. Of the people that have seen or heard your message, how many of them have clicked? If it's something that's clickable, like an email or a digital ad or a video or a social post, how many of them have clicked to learn more, to get more information? When they got to your website, how many of them took a next actionable step, right? Like for Sam's business with his music lessons and everything, yes, it's great if someone comes to a website to learn about the different lessons he offers, but wouldn't it be even more valuable to track and see if we're getting anybody that wants to sign up for those music lessons? Of course. So it's measuring what I call valuable actions on the website, okay? Meaningful actions that we're looking for. Then you're also measuring things like how many people called from our ads, how many people filled out a form to raise their hand to say I'm interested or signed up to your webinar or your open house. So think about all the different ways you can measure and monitor your campaigns, your performance, okay? Whether that's using a call tracking number. So we have an HVAC client in San Diego County, and we've agreed that we want to test a certain print publication. And so what we've chosen to do is we've secured a phone number, and the only place that phone number is going to exist on planet Earth is in that newspaper ad, in that publication. So if anybody that calls that phone number, we don't even have to ask the customer, where'd you see it? How'd you hear about us? Because we know as that place that was only in that publication. So that's an example of a way you can measure things. Okay. There are certain forms of advertising you can't measure, really. Billboard's a perfect example. About the only thing anybody can really tell you about a billboard is, hey, here's the location it was at. And based on Caltrans data of how many people drive that route every day, here's about how many cars will pass it in a given week. So some things you can measure very little. Other things you can measure much more extensively. So the key thing from this is to identify ways that you can measure the performance of what you do. Some examples of tools that people utilize to do this effectively is Google Analytics. Okay. So Google Analytics can provide a tremendous amount of data on people that visit your website. Google Tag Manager is a tool that allows you to say, to go to your website, and let's say there's 4 or 5 actions on your website that matter to you. Okay. That means someone's getting closer to wanting to do business with you. For instance, in Sam's case, maybe it's somebody that's looking at the different lessons he offers in the rates. Doesn't mean I'm signing up yet, but I'm getting closer to signing up because I'm actually reading up on the different options. So someone that clicks the button to learn about the lessons, okay, that's valuable. That's more valuable at least than somebody that just came to my homepage and then turned around and left. So Google Tag Manager allows you to set up tracking on the things that matter to you on your website. Then, of course, things that you can learn from your social media and others. When we're building tools that measuring, we use a Google product called Google Looker Studio. It's an online reporting tool that we like because we can connect data from all different sources. We can connect data from Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and X and LinkedIn and Google Analytics and all these different places so that when we're looking at things and when clients are looking at things, we're making decisions and only having to look at one report and one screen and not having to go to lots of different places to try to look at all the different data. My key point in this is measure as much as you possibly can. So that way you can understand where people were seeing things and where they went so that you can then go back and modify your strategy, right? Because when you put your marketing plan together, if you do the right steps and the right principles, you're going to have a good plan. But a good plan can become greater as you learn to improve it to go, wow, we ran 2 video ads on Facebook. This one got a lot more leads than this one did. Well, common sense would say, well, let's stop running the one that didn't get as many leads, right? Or people watching it. That's where that reporting can come into play. So you can continue to hone and improve your creative or the audiences. Like, let's say you're like, wow, we really want to target these type of people and these type and these type. But if one of the groups that you're targeting is not performing, not responding well, well, stop wasting money advertising to them and focus on the 2 that are generating lots of opportunities to do business. And that only comes about when you have reporting set up to help you do things. Okay, I'm going to take a breath and then also pause in case anybody has any questions before we dive into the last key slide today. We doing all right? Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about your toolbox. Okay. So on the left-hand side here, you're going to see some of the different tools that there's a chance your business or organization might have or might be currently using to promote you. Okay. First thing we always talk about is our social media accounts. So most frequently used ones, of course, are like Facebook and Instagram, right? For many industries, it makes sense to also utilize X. And I know sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's Elon Musk's product. I don't want to do it." And they make a decision to not use it for political reasons because of the political opinions. I would challenge you to set that aside and realize that there are literally tens of millions of people that still use that platform on a daily basis. Okay. So if it makes sense because the type of people that are on there, use it. LinkedIn is extremely powerful still. Okay. Nearly 30% of Americans have a LinkedIn account and over 50% of them are active on it regularly. So it's a huge percentage of people that are still out there. YouTube, if you do any video content creation, and a lot of people nowadays are doing videos for TikTok or for Instagram for like a reel or a story, and they don't think to put it on YouTube. Okay. YouTube is the second biggest website in the world, and it's owned by the biggest digital company in the world, Google. So Google wants people to be on YouTube. So if you put a video on, if you make a reel or a story or a TikTok video, and it's 30 or 40 seconds, take that same video and put it on YouTube. It's called YouTube Shorts. Okay. Google loves YouTube because they own it. So when someone's doing a search and they're looking for behavioral health services near me, and if David has a little YouTube video on there, there's a good chance that that video might appear on the first page of that search. So now the person gets to watch that, and it's the same video that he put on his Instagram and his Facebook and was putting on TikTok. So again, think about all the social platforms that you can benefit from and leverage. SMS text messaging, okay? If you're not utilizing it, consider how you might be able to, if nothing else, for your existing customers to keep them updated on things, as well as your prospects. So a lot of times when we're setting up campaigns and we're generating leads for clients, we're getting permission to not only communicate with them via email if they've emailed us, also to opt in so that we can text message them. Over 90% of text messages are read within the first 10 minutes that they're sent. Okay. So the open rate and the readership of text messages is far greater than email, but we often forget to use the power of SMS text messaging. Emails. I'm going to spend a second here. We have our existing customers that we're emailing, and we have potential prospects that we might be emailing as well. And a few things that you want to ask yourself is, how often am I emailing them? And is it often enough? Okay. Some people are like, well, gosh, if I email them more than once a month, I'm going to get a lot of people unsubscribing. That might be true if you're emailing them a bunch of irrelevant junk, for lack of a better word. But if there's short, succinct emails that you send out that highlight one or two or three key points and aren't the size of War and Peace and 20 screen scrolls long, you can email people weekly. The key comes back to, is it short, sweet, to the point, and relevant, potentially relevant to the people that you're talking to? If that's the case, you can email as frequently as every week, okay? A couple little tips to help you increase the readership of your emails. First one, the subject lines that you use. When it comes to your email marketing, you want to ensure that your subject line is no more than 30 to 35 characters, not words, characters. So that means letters, punctuations, and emojis, no more than 30 to 35 characters long. And the reason is that's what's influencing in large part whether the person opens up the email or not. Is the subject that your email is about relevant to me at this moment, at this time, and eye-catching enough that I want to read it? Okay. The second thing you want to consider and study and look is, do I see improvement if I email my customers on a certain day of the week or a certain time of the day? Okay. Different companies or different industries, and even different companies within the same industry, can have different results. So what you can do, whether you're using Constant Contact or MailChimp or Hootsuite or any other tool, they'll have basic data that shows the open rates. And you can look back to say, gosh, we actually got another 10% people to open up when we send it out on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. rather than Thursdays at 6 a.m. So you can test that a little bit to increase your open rate. The next two little tricks that can help you with your email database. Number one, if you are sending an email out on a very good open rate, you might get 30, 40% that open up. Most businesses get around 15%, some of as low as 6, 7%. Okay. So what that means is there's a whole lot of people that aren't opening your email. So when we are doing campaigns for clients, we will take that exact same email that we sent out, let's say on Monday, we'll change the subject line and that's it. And we'll resend the email to everybody that didn't open the email on Monday. And we'll send that out on Wednesday or Thursday. Okay. The reason we do that is because a lot of people didn't open the email the first time was because the subject line didn't catch their attention, or they're just busy and they flat out missed the email. So it doesn't mean they weren't interested in what you have to share and what you're offering. It just means they missed it. So if you add that little in case you missed it email follow up, you're going to see a big spike in the number of people opening your emails. So that's another little pro tip that you can utilize to help with your engagement in conversations. The last couple that we have on here that are in most people's toolboxes or available to use, media advisories or press releases. So that's that basic information that you might share with a local newspaper reporter or magazine publisher or uh, television station, radio station, or online news outlet of exciting, newsworthy, and noteworthy things that you are a part of. And I say newsworthy and noteworthy because that's really important. If your neighbor and your friends wouldn't find it exciting, there's a good chance the media is not going to care about it. As passionate as you are about something, unless it's newsworthy and noteworthy, don't waste your time trying to craft something to send out to the different media outlets. They've got tons of options coming to them every single day about what they should consider covering or writing about in their online or offline publication. So this is best suited and left for when you've got something really incredible going on, unique, innovative, special that people might get excited about. And you want to paint the picture of if someone comes to your event or the conference or whatever it is you're promoting or talking about, what are the things that they're going to experience or see or hear about that's different than what's normally out there? That's when you start to make it newsworthy and noteworthy, and that's when you share it with the local media outlets. Your website, of course, this is important to, and this is where Google Analytics can also help you. Google Analytics will show you how much time people spend on the different pages of your website. They'll also show you the different journeys that people take. So people that start on your homepage, how many of them go to each of the secondary pages, and how many of them stop or continue on, so that you can look and go, wow, everybody that goes to this second page stops and never goes to a third page. What's going on the design on that page that's causing people to just leave and obviously not find anything interesting and relevant? So that's one pro tip, is to utilize the data available in Google Analytics to analyze the viewership or the visitorship of your different pages and the journeys that they take on your website. The second key thing to do is to think about, what are the top things that I want to accomplish with a visitor? Okay. So if my primary goal is to get people to call me, and this goes back to common sense, so our fifth time with the old common sense would say I should make sure my phone number is highly visible, not at the bottom, just in the bottom of the footer of my website, which a lot of people do. If calls are a primary thing, that needs to be near the top. And oh, aha, if someone's visiting on my mobile phone, shouldn't I make my phone number on my website clickable so they can just click it and call it? I don't know about you, but I get so frustrated when I go to a website on my phone and I try to call them from it and I click and call. Because then I've got to find a pen or try to memorize the phone number for a minute so I can type it into my phone. Okay. So think about your primary goals of what you want people to do when they get to your website, and make sure your website is built that way. Okay. We get so excited, and we're culprits ourselves at Target River. We do so much for so many different people, but we can overwhelm people by visiting our website. So we have to remind ourselves to keep it simple. Okay. The last key thing, and this is a perfect plug and pitch for the chamber, right? There's wonderful community partners out there that, when it's newsworthy and noteworthy, might be willing to share or help create a platform for you to share valuable information with others in the community. So chambers of commerce, Kiwanis clubs, Rotarians, Elks Lodge, Lions Club, other organizations that are out there, some faith-based organizations. So think about can who can be a valuable partner to help distribute and share relevant information with as well. Here's my old adage with it. You never know unless you ask. And the worst thing that that partner can say is, no, it just doesn't fit with what we do for our members. But if you did this, I can share that instead. And sometimes they'll tell you how to fix or correct it so that they can share it with their member base or their community. So again, always leverage those partnerships and relationships that you have. Okay, going to take a breath for a second here. Any questions or thoughts from the things that we just covered on the toolbox? 3, 2, 1. Oh, David?
Oh
Okay,
man, I'm sorry I asked questions.
no
You
problem.
mentioned H Suite, right? And then I've been getting more familiar with, the newer tools. That's one of the newer tools from what I understand, guarding like you get your content and this thing distributes it on the different social media platforms back to efficiency, making the best of our time.
Yep.
Um, from your experience, because it's more of a newer tool and there's quite a few other things, kind of pricey. But
Yeah, it's
when
very
you're kind of
pricey.
looking from, but if you're to hire a marketing company, it's all relative. But it is pricey in regards to things
Well,
I've
it's
been.
pricey for us too. So if a
Oh, it
client
is.
says that they want to be on, yeah, I mean, it's hundreds of dollars a month for the average business to be on Hootsuite. So we actually don't use Hootsuite
Uh-huh.
unless a client's adamant about it and has already built things out. There's a lot of options. So we utilize
Yes.
Revo for a lot of our email and SMS data storage and communication because it provides very valuable tools to help us identify what emails are working well, what's not working well, what's hitting inboxes versus spams, which days of the week and times of the days are better. And it'll actually help us to say, hey, historically, Brian, here's 1,000 people you're emailing for this client. These 300 tend to prefer emails in the morning. These 400 tend to prefer to get it in the afternoon. So we'll actually spread the emails out to a more appropriate time to people and some really cool things like that. So we're fans of Brevo. Um, there's other tools that are good, but that's just one we found that consistently fits best. From a social media standpoint, we create literally hundreds of posts every week for different clients. And then they need to preview them to make sure we're representing them correctly. So we need to ensure that others on the team and our clients can view and see that. And then if there's any edits, can just comment there. And then once we approve it, it'll schedule it. So we use, which is one of the features of Hootsuite, we use a tool called Hey Orca. Like think of an orca whale, like Shamu,
Mhm.
okay? So the HEY and then Orca. Again, that's just one of them that we happen to enjoy because the price point's good
Mhm.
and it's super awesome because then if I'm working with a teammate of mine and I can tell them, hey, I've just uploaded the post for next week. Can you go ahead and review them? And they can just comment in the platform. And if it's good to them, they can just hit approve. And then it's automatically scheduled for the date and time that that post is going to go out. So those are a couple of alternative options. Hootsuite does all of that, but the price can get pretty spendy.
Mhm. And is one of your strategies, I know there's different, like I've been listening, is very informative. Thank you, Brian. But the idea kind of like video, because you have your nice video, it could be 30 seconds, but your video you can extract. So you have the technology to extract the text. You have it
Yep.
technology to extract the audible or the voice. So right
Mm-hmm.
there is pretty much a way to you hit this nice video, but there's software, AI, the things, different things that can extract and then go into the appropriate social media platform. Once again, I'm
Yeah,
just
so
seeing
we're
where is the technology, because you know how they promise something and then you actually use it and you try of course, you try any free feature or free thing, it never works, right? You almost have to get like at least the middle
paid
tier.
versions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the middle tier. I hate when they do that. They set you up. So I'm always trying to
Yep.
talk to somebody who's gotten like the professional version. And does it work? 'Cause, I mean, honestly, $99 to me is not a high price point. If it actually can deliver that, that'd be great.
Right.
I mean, you do
Well,
5 to 7 posts a week in 5 different platforms. How much time would that would save? But I'm just trying to find out, is it really as good as it says it is? That's one of my
yeah.
things. It's
Yeah.
where's
That
the technology at?
we are big proponents of repurposing. So if we create a story,
Purpose.
like let's say we're making a video for a client, it's a 30-second video. Well, there was a script written to build that video around, right? Well, with maybe minimal or no changes, that script can also be the copy for a social post on Facebook and Instagram and a tweet on X and a post on LinkedIn. That also can be the start of an email that goes out that week on the same topic, right? So we're always big, create once, reuse multiple times. Okay. AI tools can be effective for drafting ideas for copy and content. So we do have a paid version for our company of ChatGPT. Um, it's good and it helps us a lot. The AI tools for graphic design and visual design, we never we will use them as thought starters. So if we have a new client and we're trying to get a bunch of ideas to make sure we're going in the right direction with their visuals and their designs, we might use the Adobe AI tool because that's the best out there right now. But we can never use what it actually creates because it still does silly things like spells words wrong, adds a sixth finger to a hand, all the silly stuff. It's still out there. So our artists still ultimately design it. Where it helps us is to accelerate the thought starting, the brain, the ideas. When you've got writer's block and you're trying to come up with some things and stuff, we utilize those. In fact, we haven't found what we need. So we actually have two AI automation engineers that are building a platform for us as a company to do everything that we need to do because there's nothing that exists in the marketplace yet. So I got tired of waiting and we're going to build it ourselves. So but chat gpt can the paid version is a great way to get a lot of thought starting and to go, hey, I need to draft ideas for 5 social posts, an email, a video script, and here's what I need to be covered and here's what my goal is of that video. So people talk a lot about um, AI is only as good as the person writing the prompt. Because you and I could both ask ChatGPT the same question, but the more detailed you are and the more descriptive of what you want it to do for you and how you want it to look, the better off the response is going to be. And then you can personalize it and put it into your own voice. Okay.
So, wonder if I could ask you a question because you guys are
Yeah,
talking
go ahead,
about
Sam.
you're talking about tools basically that you can use to build content, to manage your social media accounts, manage your emails, manage your SMS. Do you mind sharing a list of some of the tools you guys recommend? Because I run into the same problem that David does. Which tools do I use? I got to pay to try that one. I got to pay to try that one. And a lot of times you're just looking, the most popular one's also the most expensive and maybe does too much. I'm a very
Yep.
small business. I don't need this gigantic program that does all this stuff. For example, Salesforce's software is way too big for me.
Yep. Yep, no problem. What I'll do is I'll share that with Mike, just some simple good ones, so that when the email goes out with the copy of this PowerPoint, you've got some ones there. We do not get kickbacks, so this is not, oh, is Brian a influencer or endorser for that? We have found the ones that we're about cost efficiency because I
Sure.
want to make sure that we're delivering because the less I have to spend, the less we have to charge our clients, right? If we use Hootsuite, for example, instead of Hey Orca, I've got to charge a client $400 more a month to manage their social media, but that's how much more Hootsuite costs than Hey Orca does. And
Right.
and that's with me not marking it up, you know. So we're about efficiency and effectiveness. So we'll share a list of some of those best practice tools to you guys, okay? And
Awesome.
some of them are free, and if they do have a cost to it, I'll share that as well. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. We've got a few minutes left. The slide on the right, um, it's a target. It's a bullseye, right? Anybody done axe throwing or played darts or know the concept? The closer you are to the center, the more points you get, right? So think about it in marketing. The closer you are to the center, the more likely you're hitting the person that you want to reach, and you're avoiding that random act of marketing. So if you look at the outside, that third ring on the outer part, those are things that are very broad reaching. I have limited to no control over who's going to see it. Okay. We talked about billboards, right? I have no control other than the location. So if I have, let's say, 5 restaurants in East County, I might say, hey, you know what? I've got enough locations and I have a popular enough type of food that I want to reach people because lots of people eat. Okay, I could kind of buy into maybe some billboards helping. But, for most businesses, we've got a more narrow audience that we want to target. So that's oftentimes where a billboard or television or radio or ads in the movie theater don't make sense because I can't dictate who's going to see it and who's not going to see it. Um, we have a client that's the largest brand of cheese in Utah, southern Idaho, and parts of Nevada where they're sold. Most people eat cheese. Okay. So our goal is to just to make sure that when people go to the grocery store the next week, that they grab our client's brand, which is called Cache Valley versus Tillamook or Sargento. So we do use television and billboards because we need to make sure everybody that's a grocery shopper knows this brand. So our targeting doesn't need to be very, very tight because the vast majority of people that we reach through television and billboards are potential grocery shoppers. Okay. So that's where we use the broad tactic. Now let's jump to that middle, that bullseye there. That's when we're hitting that targeted audience where we're going, hey, like that software company, we only want to reach people that work for cities who have the job title of city manager, assistant city manager, director of public works when they are online or doing something. So we use tactics like video pre-roll because I can target those people. So the next time they're watching video content, I can show them a video message and anybody else watching that program at the same time won't see our ad. I can be that targeted. Okay. The next time they're on YouTube, I can hit just that person and ignore everybody else with our ad. If they're searching, I can target them based on the specific keyword and phrase that is relevant to their search. So the key here, and you guys will get a copy of this deck, is to think the more narrow and specific your audience is, the more selective you have to be on choosing what tactic to use and not to use. Every form of advertising has its place, but most of them don't have their place every business. And that's the biggest thing that I want to leave you guys with today, because if we remember that, we're going to go back to avoiding the random acts of marketing, where sometimes we might go, wow, we had a successful month. But if we're not measuring it, we don't know which worked and which didn't, right? So there's lots of reasons why a strategy like this, where we target in, we identify who we want to reach, how we want to reach them, what we want to say, and then we hold our campaigns as accountable as possible, will have more success, right? Random acts of marketing is like giving your money to your retirement investment firm and not ever asking them what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, nor ask them to have any accountability. And then 20 years from now, when you go to retire, you ask for the first time, hey, what's my portfolio look like? And they tell you, oh, we lost $184,000. You actually owe us money, right? That's analogous to doing random acts of marketing. You wouldn't want to do it. So don't do it for your own business. Take this approach to help yourself be more effective, to get better results, to be more cost efficient, right? Because money's valuable. So you want to make sure any of the time, any of the effort, any of the money that you spend gets meaningful measurable results for you all. Okay. So thank you for your time, everyone. I think oh, 1 o'clock on the dot. Mike, I did okay.
You did great, Brian. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Not a problem.